The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
The mind of Pat Popolizio is a wondrous thing. And for you Pac Wrestling fans, you'll get to go inside the mind of the Skip each and every episode here on the Pac Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. Now, here's your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Brian Reinhardt.
The inaugural episode of Pac Mentality Pop-Ins. My name is Jason Bryant, joined today with Pat Popolizio, head wrestling coach at North Carolina State University. I'm going to be joined later by Director of Athletics and Digital Communications, Brian Reinhardt. This is a new program for you, the fans of Wolfpack Wrestling that hold that Pac mentality. Coach Popolizio, before we even start into the program, why did you elect to say, hey, let's start a podcast and talk about wrestling here with NC State Athletics?
Well, that's a great question because I think it's that time in our career here at NC State to start getting a new way to get some information out to people that have been following the program. I think over the years, there's been more and more people following what's been happening over here and the growth. We just felt like this was a good time to start putting that all into place, and having Brian on board makes things a lot easier because he does a great job day to day in helping us get our information out there.
For those who are familiar with the program and those who are discovering the sport of wrestling and the NC State wrestling program, what exactly is the Pac mentality in Raleigh?
It's something we created a while back. Guys take a lot of pride in it, and it's kind of, at first it was just like a little bit of a running joke maybe, and then little by little it kind of fell into sync with just what we're looking for when we start doing from square one with recruiting to the development of a student athlete when they're here at NC State, and it eventually falls into a lifestyle that we're looking for, and it goes pretty in depth day to day, week to week, and then obviously what we want to mold young men into being successful in the classroom and then on the mat. Everybody's got their vision, what they want out of their athletes. We kind of spell it out a little bit, and we have some great leadership involved in our program, and ultimately that's what we're trying to create is future leaders for different places and people down the road, as long as being successful in the classroom and on the mat.
What's made North Carolina State Wrestling successful to the point where you guys are now regarded as not just a regional power or, trying to be the best program in the state of North Carolina, then the best program in the ACC? You guys are regarded as a national name now.
Well, that's obviously something the guys taken a lot of pride in. We've worked extremely hard as a coaching staff to build that up. I think it's the group of people that are within the organization that have helped tremendously, the work ethic, the attitude, and it's just the development of everybody associated with it. We're fortunate enough to have a very good support system here at NC State. Our athletic director, Dr. Yao, obviously is very involved in the sport of wrestling and couldn't ask for anything more than that. She's stepped up to the plate in a lot of different ways for us here at NC State, but also at the NCAA level, and that's what you need when you're trying to build a program. You need everybody on board, and we're fortunate enough to have that from our AD all the way on to everybody that's dealing with our athletes day to day, from academic side of stuff to our trainers, sports nutritionist, strength coach, and then obviously our direct staff is passionate about helping these guys accomplish their goals, and it's over the last couple of years, we've improved every year and something, whether it was results or just kind of reaching out to the community to grow our fan base. So that's something we take a lot of pride in here.
Let's introduce the staff, although you just lost one of your right-hand men, Frank Beasley, who just took a job as the head wrestling coach at George Mason. Still on staff with you, Adam Hall and Obi Blanc. What do those two bring to your staff and bring to the table?
Very valuable experience. I mean, it was a dangerous combo when Frank was here. You don't replace a guy like him, and he's worked extremely hard to get to where he's at, and an unbelievable opportunity for him. So he will be very much missed. But this is where it's time to shine for Adam Hall and Obi Blanc, and they have, and obviously Melissa being here. We got a lot of really good people behind the scenes day to day that maybe in our regional training center are here helping, doing some stuff with freestyle engagements with our program. And then obviously Hall and Obi are in the limelight a little bit with the recruiting. So those guys bring a ton of experience. They've had success at the college level, international level, and they are phenomenal mentors to the guys in our program. So this is it's a win-win because we're going to be able to bring another full-time staff member in who's going to bring a new dynamic and some new ideas to the program, and obviously still has some years left in him for wrestling in the room, which is great for the guys that are around his weight. So that'll be a big win for them as well.
You had mentioned Melissa. That's Melissa Simmons, multiple-time women's college champion in her competition days, and she's the director of operations, one of the few women that hold this role in Division I athletics. What's it been like to have her kind of be the glue that keeps all you guys sane and on track?
Well, I don't think she likes hearing it, but a lot of guys call her mom within the program. She's shaking her head at me right now. But no, she's definitely brings a totally different outlook on some things day to day, and it's fun to watch because the guys respect her a ton, and she has a lot of knowledge of the sport of wrestling, but also just she's competed as an athlete herself and can do a lot of the work behind the scenes that helps us focus in on more of the recruiting side of things and the development of the student athletes. So she takes a lot off our plate, so we're able to do different things, and that's what brings value to a program, is when you're able to everybody focus in on their job and do their job. That's when you're in a good spot, and that's what she's been able to do, is take a lot of that extra work off all of us, and obviously been a great mentor to a lot of these guys as well. So we're in a good spot when they're calling her mom.
When you look at the way these programs are shaping around the country, a lot of it's outreach, a lot of it's alumni relations, and you guys don't have to go very far to look at the Director of High School Alumni Relations, Bob Guzzo, who had sat in your role for a number of years. And then you also you've got an Olympic medalist and an NCAA champion, Noel Loban, who's associated with the program. As we go down the list of people that are with the staff and connected to wrestling and helping it grow there at Raleigh, what do these people actually mean to the program, and how much do they help you get your job done?
Yeah, definitely. Everybody has a role in our program if they're here associated with it. Guzzo's got obviously, years of experience that you can't fathom how much he knows about wrestling and the connections he has. So he's brought all that. He's still connected to all the guys that wrestled here in the past. And to be an elite level program, you have to have the alumni on board. And that's something he's been able to bridge that gap. And, obviously we've made a lot of great relationships since then, but he was very valuable in that. Coach Loban obviously has that experience wrestling freestyle, was a national champ in college at Clemson, and then coached here for several years as a volunteer assistant. So he still plays an active role in our room with our RTC. So he's a great role model to all these guys here. And, that's one thing I think our staff brings, is just a different outlook. There's a lot of different personalities and just a very diverse staff, and I think that helps tremendously when you're recruiting and have different athletes, because not every kid's going to connect with every coach, and we're fortunate enough to have a lot of different dynamics and personalities and just people in general, and one way or another something's going to connect.
We're going to let the show take care of the regional training center discussion later on in the year as we get towards that season. But as we talk about this season coming up, you got a solid lineup coming back, but I really want to look at the schedule, because this is where people get to know the Wolfpack wrestlers. You start out back up in your brother's stomping grounds, an area you know pretty well up in the capital region of New York with Northeast Duels. You've got Ithaca, a Division III school on the schedule, Oklahoma, and the Citadel will start off the year before, sticking around and wrestling the Journeyman Classic the next day. What's it mean to go back and have that situation where your brother is really putting together high-level events, and you guys, when you were at Binghamton, now at NC State, you've kind of reaped the benefits of those events?
Yeah, I think I've been at his event every year, other than I think my first year here at NC State. Just kind of schedule was already in place. But I think I've been there almost every year, and including even when I was at American with Mark Cody. I think we wrestled up there a couple times. So been going to it a lot, and it's been fun because you watch those events grow, and he keeps evolving as a person who's marketing the sport and throwing some different events in there, and that's really what we need in our sport of wrestling, and he does a phenomenal job. So always want to be a part of that, and obviously the competition's as good as it gets that time of the year, and it's just different having the dual meets and then the next day being able to go into the round robin tournament. something totally different, college wrestling, and always looking to evolve our sport. So that's definitely going to be a fun event.
First row home duels of the schedule come in mid-November the 18th. You're hosting UNC Pembroke, a Division II school from down the road. Reinhardt, a second-year NAIA program from down in Georgia. And Utah Valley, Division I school from all the way out in Utah, going to fly in. And this is an event you kind of get your feet wet. You get your starters in there. Some new guys are going to get looks for the first time. We'll see what it's like to be in that lineup. But why the dynamic of this grouping of teams this year for the Wolfpack duels?
Yeah, we always try to bring some new teams, give some other programs opportunities to wrestle some D1 schools, something you probably won't really see too often. But like you said, we get to mix and match our lineup, see some new faces, and get these guys some mat time here right at home. So that's kind of why we do that. It's kind of an all-day event, and then obviously we want to finish with a very solid D1 team. And this year it just worked out where Utah Valley State was able to come here and they're going to have some really good guys in their lineup as well. So it'll be some good matchups there. But at the end of the day, we always want to try and bring some new teams in here to Raleigh, and then they get the luxury of sticking around the next day and wrestling in our Wolfpack Open. So it's a win-win for teams coming in here. Everybody leaves with a ton of matches and on one weekend. So it'll be a good weekend for that.
Yeah, speaking about the Wolfpack Open, with the way the dynamics are in qualifying for the championships, all these matches are important, and the open calendar, so to speak, has kind of exploded, and people are looking, okay, well, we're going to see these teams this way, so we're going to try a different open. It's caused some teams, you've got Utah Valley coming in from the West Coast. We've seen Stanford going up to the Hokie Open at Virginia Tech and things of that nature. What has the Wolfpack Open done in terms of taking on a life of its own, so to speak, with the way the Division I qualifier system works?
It works out very well. Just alone in the state of North Carolina with all the D1 teams that are here, you fall into that category where you're going to get good quality D1 matches. And the luxury is, if a team's bringing their roster, you're going to have 2 or 3 guys from each team in their weight class. So you're hitting D1 competition, and then we're not far from other programs. Or right, if you're going up towards Maryland area, you got several schools that are able to get down here, and then you always have certain teams coming in to get different competition. So it falls into that, and it's an easy, Raleigh being an easy place to get to, and that time of the year, you can't beat the weather. So it's a good weekend in Raleigh for wrestling, and just connecting some new programs to each other and getting some good quality matches. And it's just seems like over the last couple of years, the competition from the semis on has been pretty competitive, and it's grown a little bit as far as the depth goes at the D1 level. So it's been a great tournament, and we're out of here early enough to where everybody can fly home on a Sunday or drive and be back on campus pretty early.
You close out the 2017 year with 4 non-conference duels in the Reno Tournament of Champions before you guys get up and just leave the country. We'll get to that in a moment. Non-conference duels with my alma mater, Old Dominion, then Chattanooga and Lake Norman, North Carolina, before wrestling Appalachian State and Nebraska. Let's talk about ODU just for a minute, not because I went there, but that's been a dynamic you guys have had back and forth training in Norfolk and in Raleigh. It seems to be there's a pretty good synergy with the staffs and the wrestlers there in the off season. Yeah,
that one dates back to the glory days at Binghamton with Martin, first meeting Martin there. So that one goes back probably 10 years ago. So we built up a very good relationship. Obviously, like you said, we've done some training camps together and just got a lot of respect for, what he's been able to do over there and how hard they work. So it's worked. Those guys come down here every now and then, and we've been up there, and it's just a dual meet we always want to continue to have because it's really not too far. Virginia Beach, it's a close enough drive that we need to continue to do these dual meets, and looking forward to them coming into town this year.
All right. Chattanooga out at Lake Norman just outside of Charlotte. What's the dynamic with that dual meet?
One of those where it worked out. I think Chattanooga was wrestling at Davidson that time. They were trying to get another dual meet in, and obviously I think timing-wise it made sense for us to come up there. There's a huge high school dual meet tournament right in Charlotte at Lake Norman High. I think there's 16 teams that are going to be there. We want to grow our fan base, and this was a perfect opportunity to do so and get out and wrestle in front of some of North Carolina, South Carolina. I think there's even some teams from out of state coming in. So our guys will get exposed to that. I imagine it'll be a pretty packed gym there because I think the the same high school team that's in the same town as Chattanooga is wrestling there. So, they're going to have their fan base, and that's what you want. You want that atmosphere where it gets a little rowdy and intense and something different. I don't know too many times there's matches wrestled in Charlotte, North Carolina for D1 wrestling. So this will hopefully help kind of promote college wrestling out there.
Now moving towards the duel with Appalachian State, and historically, this is a duel that the Wolfpack hasn't wrestled well. It's just something always pops up, and App State always gives it their best. And this has really developed into an interstate rivalry beyond just being two schools in the same state. What about what makes it difficult to go in and contend with John Mark Bentley's staff out there in Boone?
Well, I think you hit it on the head. The coach himself, John Mark, does a great job. Those guys are gritty. They're tough. They train hard, and when you're going there, you're going to get a dog fight from those guys. They have something they want to prove all the time, and obviously we're a school that is a perfect time for them to come at us, and I love it because our guys got to rise to the challenge, and it makes us better because of it, and I know they obviously grow as a program too. So it's a win-win, and great competition and very competitive. So I always look forward to that because it has, it's not. I don't think it's because we've wrestled bad. I think it's just because they've always been tough and good, and they put a great product out there, and those are the kind of matches you want to be in, and that's why they have them on the schedules, because it's going to be a fun duel right here in state, and a lot of people come out because they want to support the state of North Carolina.
Flying out to Lincoln December 15th to take on the Huskers, and why a Big Ten school in a dual meet at this point in the calendar?
Variety, and obviously the team itself, Nebraska, we've had, I think we're going on 4 years. This will be the fourth year we get to wrestle them, so it's been a great dual meet, intense dual meets that we've had here. I think we've been at home twice, and now this will make it 2 times being out there. So they get a rowdy fan base and great wrestling. So looking forward to that. I think there's going to be a lot of good one-on-one matchups that'll be out there. So, anytime you can wrestle in different conferences and the level that they're at, that's something we definitely need to do. So that's why we're doing that one.
Reno Tournament of Champions. This one kind of came to the limelight last year when Penn State couldn't attend because of weather, and a couple other schools. I know Campbell, I think, was another one that couldn't attend. But weather permitting, you're already going to be out there in Nebraska, and it's just going to be a hop, skip, and a jump over to Reno. Why the Reno Tournament of Champions this year?
I think it kind of fell into the training calendar that we were looking for, and then obviously with the next event you're probably going to talk about, we wanted to balance it out to where we can get good quality competition, come back, regroup, go through some hard training over the break, and then get ready for the second semester. But the Reno Tournament Championships just kind of fell right into that category, kind of closing out the semester, good quality competition out there, and it kind of just fell into place. Being out in Nebraska, we just figured, it makes sense to kind of stay out in that area, going out west a little bit more and get some new look of teams, and it's just perfect timing for us to come back, regroup, and get ready for a second semester in Oklahoma State.
And you guys are going to be spending essentially the start of 2018 in Naples, Italy. This has been a big news around college wrestling. NC State, Oklahoma State, your alma mater. Your brother puts this thing together. First of all, Naples, Italy, it's going to be the first time a Division I dual meet takes place outside of North America. And just the reason I say that is because there is a Division II school in the NCAA in Canada at Simon Fraser. So we have to say that this is the first one outside of North America. But Naples, Italy, dude, what's this mean for the program? What's this mean for wrestling? I'm curious on your mind, your reaction to Frank's pitch on this.
It was kind of mutual because I know my brother's had a good relationship going over there to Italy, taking his club team, and then obviously our connection with Oklahoma State and John kind of was a no-brainer. But just something different, unique, and at the end of the day, you want to put your athletes in a good setting as far as something that's educational and something that they're going to remember. And this trip just kind of fell right into that category of, hey, this could be a win-win as far as guys coming back with an experience that they'll never forget. And it was an easy sell to everybody that was involved in making this decision, but it was just going through the logistics and making sure we could fit it within our schedule, budget, and, just all the dynamics that go into flying overseas is a little more challenging. So it was an easy sell to John as well, and I think my brother works extremely hard to make things happen, and this was one. It wasn't easy, and it's something we've all been working on for a little while now, and it kind of just fell into place for this January, and it's going to be a pretty unique event, I would imagine, and looking forward to that. And obviously some good team bonding as well, and can't pass up the good food that we're going to hit out there.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't really aware. He's John Smith. While his last name doesn't really indicate it, heavily Italian on the mother side of the family. So there's definitely actually he's in, I believe, the Italian American Sports Hall of Fame. Believe it or not. So there's definitely the Popolizio thing, and then there's the other side of the Smith family that makes this one a natural fit. Is it kind of cool to do this against your alma mater as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes it even that much better is having that connection and relationship with Oklahoma State and John and obviously Zach and all the other people that are associated with the program. But you're also going to get some of the best wrestling in the country right there. And I think there's some key individual matchups that are going to be, some of the better matches that we'll see maybe this upcoming season. Some very good ones that obviously going to fall into place hopefully on that trip. And that's what we're looking forward to, a unique experience, great competition, and just something that's kind of going to be a first thing happening, at least in our time. So definitely looking forward to getting out there come January.
I think Melissa Simmons' experience working with the national teams at USA Wrestling is going to help her in getting everybody the proper legal documentation with passports, because I know she's had experience doing that. So that's one thing that's probably going to fall on her plate, right? That
right there is probably the thing that is the most challenging, is the logistics behind it, and she's done an unbelievable job. Just getting everybody's passports in place, and you'd be surprised how many kids don't have a passport that think that they do have a passport. So the little things you're not thinking of, we got to make sure all that's in place, because it's a lot of planning going overseas. So that's definitely taken care of, though. Good hands with her.
You go into the heart of the ACC schedule. We'll kind of talk about that, let you guys talk about that as the season goes near. But the last event I want to discuss is the non-conference duel against Ohio State, a national championship contender, of course, with the addition of Joey McKenna to their lineup. And just they've got some monsters on that team. You guys know one of them fairly well. His name is Snyder. He's done pretty good. Yeah. But, closing out the year with Ohio State, whereas this date the last 2 years has been a national duels date, I've seen around the country that last weekend now being filled with non-conference duels that are going to be super competitive. In lieu of there being no national duels this year, it seems like you're like, all right, well, we're going to do our own national duel that weekend.
Yeah, it's unfortunate the national duels aren't happening. I think it was a very good concept, just logistically probably hard to work out with every team in the country. So I think that's what you're seeing is teams trying to find a school that's going to be competitive for them, be a good draw, and then at the end of the day, prepare them the best that they can for the national tournament or their conference tournament before that, but ultimately the national tournament. And for us, it made sense this year, especially getting Ohio State here on campus. I think is going to be, a huge draw for our arena where we're at. And again, I think there'll be some key matchups in there that are going to be some matches that are going to be wrestled with the national tournament. And we're looking forward to having them here because I know they got a great following, and there are actually a lot of Ohio State fans right here in Raleigh. So we're looking to, at that point, fill out our arena.
And speaking of the arena, Reynolds Coliseum finished up some renovations. What's it like to wrestle in there now?
Beautiful atmosphere. It's a first-class arena. There's a ton of history with all different sports. Obviously, wrestling's in there. There's banners hanging down from national championships to ACC team titles. And then you have the Olympic side of things with Olympic athletes and medals and world championships. So there is a ton of history. It's not just come in for a dual meet and leave. This is something where you can come here, spend a couple hours walking around and getting the whole history of NC State athletics. And that's what I love about it, is because you can get lost in there reading up with all the famous names and athletes that have been through here. So that's what makes this arena special, but it still has that old school feel to it. It's kept that the noise in here is when it gets loud and rowdy with the Wolfpack fans. It definitely gets pretty noisy in there. So that's probably the best part when you're in there competing, because they kept all the ceilings the way they were. And I will say this: we've added air conditioning now, so in the summertime it's a nice place to be as well. It used to not be in the summer, but now it is.
All right, Pat, we've gone through your staff and your schedule. We're going to turn things over to Brian Reinhardt, who's going to be handling the hosting duties from here on out this season. But so, folks, this is probably one of the last times you're going to hear me on this program unless they want to bring me on for something else. But
you'll be invited back for a special guest. Don't worry.
Oh, okay, good. Just got to make sure that we keep that Pack mentality here. So
you got it.
Now handing things over to Brian Reinhardt, the Director of Athletics, Digital Communications at North Carolina State University. He's going to be the one taking the reins here on the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. That's a lot of P's. Say that 5 times fast. Brian, first of all, this is going to be an arduous undertaking. I hope you know I host a lot of podcasts. Are you ready for the challenge to deal with Pat Popolizio in a podcast on a somewhat semi-weekly basis?
Well, first of all, Jason, we got to thank you and your network here in helping us out with this venture. You've already produced some 8 great podcasts, and it's kind of where we got the idea and everything. But speaking about our program, our fans, they love our content. So we wanted to hit up a different avenue, and we feel like this is great timing. And, yeah, it's going to be an undertaking, but we're all looking forward to it.
So Brian's planning on doing things from the road because he does a lot of travel with these guys, some athlete features, all sorts of things that are a little, I guess, outside of the realm of what you may be, familiar with podcasts. It's not just going to be straight interviews all the time. So, Brian, I'm looking forward to what you're going to produce. And before we even let you go, we gotta introduce you to the people. How long have you been at NC State? How did you end up here? What do you know about wrestling beforehand? And how much do you love it now?
I came to NC State straight out of college, and I graduated from West Virginia in 1999 and been at NC State ever since. I've been so very fortunate to work in this athletic department, and my role has kind of changed a little bit over the years. But now working with wrestling as I do, it's a great opportunity. Our program has really taken off the last couple of years, and the opportunity for me to produce different content has just been tremendous. And working with the staff, they want me to do as much as different stuff as I can. And this podcast is exactly that. As you said, we're going to be doing some previews, some reviews. We want to introduce our student athletes a little more than we get to in a written article. We're going to venture out, we're going to do some celebrities. And, we're going to try to tie everything in and just show the overall support that we have here at NC State.
Short, sweet, and to the point. You're going to be hearing a lot more from Brian throughout the course of the year, so I'm not going to just steal all the thunder right here. So that's going to wrap up our introductory episode here of the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. PackMentalityPodcast.com is where you can find it, of course, at GoPack.com as well. Brian's going to be hitting it on social media, and, of course, all the crew there with Pack Mentality down there in Raleigh. I look forward to hearing what you guys are ready to dole out here to the Matt Talk Podcast Network this year.
Absolutely. Thanks again. And yes, we're going to produce a lot of different content and just give fans a different look at our program. So we're all very excited.
The Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast is produced by the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, go to MattTalkOnline.com.